Okay, I think I am live. Let me check here. Let's see. Just checking my internet connection. I'm on 2G EXT. Is that okay? Okay. Hi guys, is anybody out there? Let me see. I believe I'm live. I see me. Oh, let me turn my volume down so you guys can't hear that. Alright, hi guys! Can you guys hear me? See me okay? I see a couple people coming on. Awesome. Let me know. Sharon, you can see and hear me. Awesome. Hi, Sharon. Fantastic. I just have my iPad set up over here so that I can see. Let's see if I see everybody's comments. Awesome, awesome. How you guys doing? All right. I see a couple people coming on. Happy New Year, everybody. I can't believe it's the new year already. Let's see. Can you guys hear me all right? I do have a new microphone, so hopefully the volume and everything is all good. Hi, Matthew. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So I'll just wait a couple minutes for a couple more people to jump on. I'm going to preheat my clear Isomalt just a little bit more while we're waiting. There we go. Fantastic. All right. How you guys doing? If you want to write in the chat where everybody's from, that's always fun to see where everybody is watching from. I hope you guys are doing great this new year. Hi Becky, how are you? Awesome, awesome. I'm so excited for today's Playdate. We are making diamonds. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different ways that you can make diamonds and some different backings and different painting techniques to get different sparkly effects, different pearlized effects, and some foil back techniques as well, which will be really nice. Oh, awesome. We got a whole bunch of people. Hi Karen, hi Bev, hi Margarita, we miss you. Hi Tammy. Awesome, awesome. Fantastic. So Mom will be in here in just a couple minutes and she will be watching the chat. So if you have any questions throughout the demo, you can go ahead and write them in the chat and I am happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Perfect, perfect. Karen is from Birmingham. Hi Heba. Happy New Year to you too. Fantastic. Alright. Yay. Alright, so yeah, we are going to start in just a minute. Let's see, I have everything ready to go, I believe. I have a couple pieces pre-made because I want to show you a whole bunch of different techniques today. Fantastic. If anybody wants to follow along today to the Playdate, we're going to be using our clear Isomalt, and I just preheated it for 30 seconds, and then 15-second intervals until it's a liquid, which I'll talk more about in just a minute.
Hi everybody.
Mom's here. Awesome. Teresa Comfort is here. Jackie's here.
Make sure to share.
Yeah, make sure to share this to all of your cake friends, please. Alright, alright. Fantastic. There's a little bit of a lag on my iPad in here of the comments, but I promise I will get to as many as I can, and if you're watching the replay, you're welcome to message me directly, and that's the fastest way to get in contact with me, is just to send me a Facebook or an Instagram message, because that will just pop right up on my phone. Awesome. Carol is here. She says, hello, Simi family.
Hello.
Karen said, hi, Mom. Jackie said, hi, Michelle. Bev said, hi, Michelle.
Hi everybody.
Fantastic. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started, and yeah, so I'm just going to start off by talking a little bit about Isomalt. I know a lot of you guys have come to these live playdates before or taken my Zoom classes, which are so much fun, but if there's anybody new out there to Isomalt, I'm just going to do a quick overview of what Isomalt is first. First off, hi, welcome, I'm Sidney, I own SimiCakes.com, and I'm the inventor of Simi Isomalt, which is what we are using today. So we have some Simi Isomalt here, and so remember this is pre-cooked and ready to use, so all you have to do is melt this down since it's already in the hard candy form. So about 30 seconds and then 15-second intervals until it's a liquid. So it's that easy, no temperatures, no recipes, you just melt this down until it gets to a nice boil, and then it's ready to use. So we're going to be doing casting techniques today, or pouring into molds. I do have the different things from the accessory kits, if a lot of you guys got that, but you can also use what you have at home too to follow along with this Playdate and these different techniques, because I'm going to show you something that can apply to lots and lots of different projects and different brooches and effects for your cake toppers and cupcake toppers and cookie toppers and a whole bunch of different things. So yeah, basically, yes?
I always wondered, can we turn the sound up anymore versus all the way up?
I think I have everything all the way up. Yeah, I have that up, and I have my mic volume up. I can talk a little bit louder, or maybe use headphones. Sometimes that helps too, because the sound comes out different with speakers than headphones if you aren't. I'm still kind of experimenting with this new mic, so
Everybody
yeah, let me know if it goes in and out or anything like that, but I'll try and talk a little bit louder
how's
just in
the
case.
sound?
Yeah, let me know how the sound is throughout this as we kind of work everything out. I thought I'd upgrade my mic quality a little bit since we're doing so many of these events. So yeah, we'll go ahead and start off with our clear like I was talking about. So if you want to follow along and make the techniques along with me, go ahead and melt down your clear ice melt for 30 seconds and then 15-second intervals until it's a liquid. You can do all of these techniques with colored ice melt too, as long as it's a transparent color for most of them. But it's going to show up the best on the clear because you can just see right through it, and it's going to be easiest for me to show you guys the different techniques that I'm going to show you. So if you haven't worked with ice malt before, remember it's completely edible. It's a sugar-free hard candy like they use in cough drops and a lot of sugar-free candies and things, and basically you just melt it down and it's ready to use. All the ice malt that we're using today has been pre-cooked, so it's ready to use. You don't have to worry about temperatures or anything. If you're interested in learning how I temper the raw powdered ice malt from scratch, the recipe is listed for free on my website, so you can check that out there, but we're just working with the pre-cook today because it makes it super easy. Make sure you are wearing your gloves because ice melt does get to about 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 150 degrees Celsius, so quite hot. You don't want to stick your finger in it. Make sure you're wearing your gloves. Don't follow my bad example because my hands have no heat sensitivity left, so I'm not wearing the gloves. Just from doing this for over 13 years or so, I don't have heat sensitivity in my hands anymore, so it's easier for me to demonstrate, but I do recommend wearing a cotton glove and then a nitrile or latex glove over top of that, just for that double glove to buffer the heat. If you guys have any questions, please write them in the chat, and Mom and I are both kind of monitoring it, so we will be able to answer any questions that you have. And again, if you're watching the replay, you're welcome to write in the chat, but you can also just message me directly. So I'm going to switch my camera down here so that you guys can see. Alright, so
Tiziano would like you to talk a little bit about how much ice malt people can consume, because I know the T-bombs are made with ice malt.
yes.
Some people are worried about it.
Yes, so that is a big thing with ice malt that has been talked about recently, especially with the trend of the T-bombs that have become so popular right now. So basically, like I said, ice malt is a sugar-free hard candy. It's totally edible. It's made from beets, like, you know, beet, B-E-E-T-S. So it is totally edible, and it's completely sugar-free. So basically, they use ice malt in a lot of different things. They use it for cough drops. They use it for a whole bunch of different hard candies that they don't want the sugar part of it in, but they want this kind of texture to it. And isomalt is completely edible. Now, what isomalt does is it doesn't let fats absorb into your body. So when you eat a little bit, it doesn't let fats absorb into your body, which is actually a really great thing. But if you eat a ton of it, it doesn't let fats absorb into your body or anything absorb into your body, and things can kind of slide through you. So there have been questions lately about like how much can you have. Everybody is going to be a little bit different, but as long as you consume less than about a lollipop size, so I believe it's about 50 grams, which that's way more than a lollipop. So like the T-bombs are generally going to be like no more than 15 or 20 grams. So that is well within what you can eat without having any issue.
Some people have allergies, but that, I mean,
it's different. Yeah, some people can have chocolate allergies. Some people, you know, you can have allergies to anything. And I mean, if you ate an entire bag of this that was real sugar, you probably wouldn't be feeling that great. So it's the same thing, everything in moderation, but no more than about 50 grams, and that will be totally fine. So all these pieces that we're going to make today are probably, they're way less than that. They're probably about like 10 grams at most for these little pieces, so no problem at all with that. And yeah, so you can absolutely use ice malt for anything that you don't want to have that sweetness or you don't want to have that sugar in it.
it's the same thing with food labeling. You'd want to say, you know, someone who can't have peanuts, obviously.
Yeah.
You're putting it in your labeling.
Exactly. Everyone, whether you are a business that gets inspected and all of that, or if you have a cottage business, everybody has to label, right? That's just how it goes with selling edible products. So you label it regardless, and then the customer, is responsible for reading that labeling and making sure if they do have any intolerances. Okay, so that is Isomalt. Again, this is what we are using today, so it's already in the hard candy form, and we're just going to go ahead and melt that. So I have my Isomalt. That was melting, but I think I need to probably do it a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to pop it back in for 30 more seconds, and we're going to be doing all about diamonds today. So the diamond technique, of course, is one of the most popular things, diamonds, brooches, rings, to make with Isomalt because it just lends itself so beautifully to it, so that's what I'm going to show you. I get a lot of questions about how to make your diamonds sparkle, how to make them shiny, how to make them reflective. So I'm going to go over all of the different ways that you can make different finishes and effects depending on what you like for your specific pieces that you're making. Alright, so I'm just going to grab my Isomalt out. So you see that I brought it to a boil, if you can see down there. I know the exposure is a little bit bright so you can see everything, but it has come to a nice rolling boil, and I'm going to go ahead and let that settle, because the main thing with keeping all your bubbles out of your poured Isomalt pieces is going to be letting the Isomalt settle after it comes to a boil. So I let it come to a boil because it helps to get all of the hot air out, because hot air rises, right? But you don't want to pour it right away because you don't want to pour bubbles into your pieces. So I'm just letting that cool down at room temperature for a couple minutes until all the bubbles have settled. There may be some stuck to the bowl, that's fine, but you don't want any rising or moving or popping within the Isomalt. That's the most important part. So I put that off to the side. And we're going to be using silicone molds today, so if you got the accessory kit that goes along with this tutorial, you'll have all the different molds, but of course you can use any high heat, food safe silicone mold for this. And so this is our 3D diamond molds that we have on our website. It has two different sizes of diamonds, so I'm going to show you how to make those. And then we're also going to be pouring these beautiful diamond ring and this diamond earring as well. And of course these could be really beautiful in different colors. I have a whole YouTube video on coloring Isomalt if you want to see the different kinds of color that you can add. Basically you just want to add a liquid color, an airbrush color, or a powdered color like a luster dust. You don't want to add gel color though into the Isomalt, but I prefer to paint on top, which I am going to show you later for some of these small details with layering different like gems and things like that. But these are the gems that we're going to be making. First I'm going to pour these because they do take a while, a little bit longer than the other molds to cool down. So I'm going to pour this one first. So I've just let that Isomalt settle.
Jackie's 5-year-old granddaughter hears you and says, "Hi, Sidney."
Hi! Thanks for watching.
Bev was wondering,
Yes.
how long will the diamonds last if sprayed with the glaze? She sprayed hers and they turned cloudyish about 4 weeks later.
Yeah, I generally say that Isomalt's going to look the absolute best within a week. That's just when it looks nice and shiny and fresh and new. So I generally try and make my pieces no more than a week in advance if they're going to be used for something, that you're going to see, or what, if you're taking pictures or whatever you're doing, within about a week. But depending on your humidity level, as long as you glaze them right away, generally you can get weeks, even months out of it. Again, depending on your humidity level. But it also depends on if you reglaze it. So if you want to glaze it again, it should go back to fairly shiny too, so you can always touch it up a little bit. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to pour into these diamond cavities. So I'm just going to fill it all the way up to the top, and we will let those cool. So those are super easy, but I do have a trick to making sure all the bubbles on the surface go away that I'm going to show you a little bit later. Okay. So I'm just pouring a couple. Filling them all the way up without overfilling them, because I don't want them to have too domed of a top or anything like that. If there's any bubbles that did tumble in and kind of rise to the surface, my last step is just to lightly torch over the surface of the mold, and that will pop any residual bubbles that may just be hanging out there. And then I'll go ahead and let that cool. So that is going to cool down for probably about 15 or 20 minutes until the Isomalt is cool and completely solid. So I'm just going to slide this off to the side. and let those cool. Okay, so easy as that, but I will show you how to clean them up a little bit after they are done. And then the next thing that we are going to pour is the ring mold. So I'm going to take my ring mold. Now there is different, like I said, different ways that you can get different effects with diamonds. For this first one, I'm just going to pour it as is and show you some painting effects afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in the mold. Now this one does take a little bit of practice. Luckily, Isomalt can be remelted as many times as you want, so if you don't get it exactly in that little crevice the first time, you can just pop it out and remelt it and try again. It does just take a little bit of patience. So I'm just going to start with the gem, and I'm going to pour into the whole thing. You could just cover the whole thing up. You don't have to have the hole in the center. But I'm just going to go ahead and pour all the way around, and then I use my little silicone tool to spread it into some of the little points at the top and make sure that it's all nice and even. And then that same technique of just popping any bubbles along the back. Okay, and we'll go ahead and let that cool. For that one, will probably only take about 10 minutes at most at room temperature. You don't want to put them in the fridge or the freezer, just leave them at room temperature, and then we'll pop it out once it's cool.
Bev was wondering, how would you put the ring on a cookie? Can one side of the ring be made flat?
Yes, that is one nice part about this ring. So Isomalt does have surface tension, so when you fill up a mold like this that's flat on one side and doesn't have, it's not like a two-part mold, it does round. So it looks beautifully if it's going to be stood up or anything like that, but it is flatter on the back than it is on the inside of the mold, so it will lay completely flat against your cookie, the side of a cake, or whatever you're going to use it for. All right. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and let that one cool, and then we're also going to pour our little earring. I absolutely love this mold. I think that it's so pretty and delicate, and there's so many things that you can do with it. But with this one, we're going to pour it a little bit differently. So I want to show you a foil back on this piece. Now you can do this with foil, but you can also, if you wanted an edible version, because obviously you cannot eat aluminum foil, if you wanted an edible version, you could do this with gold or silver leaf, which is edible. So I'm just going to grab a piece of foil. It'll be loud for a second, sorry.
Would the gold leaf go on before, or like now when you're doing the foil, or do you wait until it cools?
You could do either way. It'd probably be a little bit easier after it cooled to just attach it on because it sticks anyway, and then you don't have to worry about it breaking through the liquidy texture of the Isomalt, but potentially you could probably do it either way. Okay, so I'm just going to cut out a piece of foil that roughly will cover the cavity of the mold. And I'm going to lay this on the back after I pour it. So this will give you a super duper hyper reflective surface. Now if you just lay the aluminum foil right on, it will stick permanently. We do use foil sometimes to pour onto to release, but you have to grease it with cooking spray first. If you don't grease it, it will stick, and that's our point now, right, is we want it to stick. So I'm just going to, I don't really have any spots that I see that need to be spread in, but I would do that if I needed to. I'm going to pop any bubbles because it's very important there's no bubbles when you lay this down, otherwise the bubbles will get trapped. And then I'm just going to lay this on the back. Now remember that metal conducts heat, so you don't want to accidentally touch it with your finger because the aluminum foil is going to be just as hot. Okay, but I just want to make sure that it's all stuck down on the back. There we go, especially in the middle because we're going to paint the outside frame. Okay, so if you can kind of tell it's concave a little bit now, it's kind of pressed down into that mold. You don't want to press too hard because you don't want it to spread up and over the sides and go outside of the mold cavity, but that's how to get a super duper reflective finish. This is something that is obviously good for reflective gems and diamonds, but it's also really good for making water. If you're doing like a base and you want to have water on it, you can lay foil out and pour it right on, and it's going to give you that completely reflective finish. You can also do it for mirrors, anything that you want completely reflective. Okay. So again, that can be used with gold leaf or silver leaf, depending on your color palette and what you want to do. And yeah, it just gives you a lot of different ways that you can interpret it. Now while those are cooling, I'm going to show you some of the more painting techniques because I pre-made a couple of those same things. So all I did was pour them in just like I did the ring. I didn't put foil or anything on the backs. So I'm just going to, I put them in a Ziploc since it is Florida. It is humid here even though this is not our most humid season. So I want to just show you guys a couple of different things that you can do with painting. Alright. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a few different things with glitters. We're going to use some luster dust because there really is different ways. Now, of course, you could just leave it. So you could just paint the frame if you wanted to on the outside with some luster dust mixed with alcohol, which we'll be doing in a bit. If you guys can see how pretty and transparent that is, it just gives you a really beautiful transparent finish. But let's do some glitter on these. I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, I'll do one of each of these. Actually, maybe let's save the glitter because the glitter is going to get everywhere. Maybe I should do that one as my last. We'll do some luster dust first instead. So I want to show you doing some luster dust. I'm going to take a paper towel just so the dust doesn't get everywhere. Okay, and then I'm going to paint one on the front, and then I'm going to paint some on the back as well so that you can see kind of the difference, hopefully, with the color. So I'm just going to use a pearl dust. So this is just Super Pearl from the Sugar Art. Now there's two different ways you can use this dust. You can dry dust it or you can wet dust it, and that's going to give you different effects. So what I'm going to do, actually I have two gems on this one, so let's save this ring for when we do the glitter because I love the glitter with the ring, and I'll show you two different effects on each one of these gems in here. So I'm going to grab a paintbrush. If you're going to do it dry, which I'll show you first, I'm just going to take a little bit of the dust. I like to use the cap to just blot it, and then I will just go ahead and paint it on. This will very, very subtly catch the reflections of each of the facets of the design, and it will give you a very, very subtle, kind of iridescent look, especially if you're using colors. So I don't know if you can tell already, compared to the bottom, how much that just kind of gave it some opacity, but not too much that you can't see through it, and it just gave it some really, really pretty reflection. So that's by just dry dusting a little bit of dust on top, and I do that for a lot of my pieces, even if I don't really necessarily want them to be diamond-like. I do that just to help reflect some of the detail of the light, because the light reflection is really what's going to give you kind of like that focal point effect. Now, if you wanted to add a little bit of alcohol, it's going to be even more intense, so I'm going to paint over top of that with just adding a couple drops of vodka or Everclear or whatever fast drying transparent alcohol that you have, and mixing that in. And then I'm just going to paint this. I like to paint the centers of the gems first so that when I go back and paint the frame it kind of cleans up any accidental brush marks or anything that I put on. So this is now very, very opaque. You can't really see the light through it. It's much more of a solid white than a transparent on the top like it was when we did the dry dust, and it just gives you a very, very solid finish. It's still very shiny. You can still see all the details and the facets of the gem, but it gives you a more opaque finish. So that is something also that I'll use a lot, just depending on how opaque you want. Obviously the more liquid you put to powder ratio, the more transparent it's going to be. So you can play around with doing it really thick and really opaque, or watering it down more. Okay, now let's compare that to painting on the back. So I just painted directly on the stone for that, right? Now I want to paint on the back of this bottom stone so that you can see the difference, because you are going to have a little bit of a difference if you paint on the back or you paint on the front, and there's really no right or wrong to this. It's just what you like and what would look best on your piece. Sometimes it takes some experimenting. Okay, so now I've flipped the whole thing over and I'm painting on the back of the gem. Sometimes you have to do a couple coats depending on how opaque you want this to be. Okay, and then when I flip this over, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you see how it didn't necessarily reflect the details of the surface, but especially in person, there's a transparent surface. You see when I look at it on the side, how you can almost see through it this way because there's no dust behind it, but it kind of creates a depth where you're looking down through the gem, the clear gem, and you're seeing this white shimmery background. Okay, so you can mix and match. You could then dry dust over it to bring out some of the detail. There's different ways that you can kind of pull in different colors and layer different colors that way if you wanted to. So this is painting on top of the actual gem, and then this one is painting on the back. I know that the webcams don't do it super duper justice, but you can really see through the clear and down into that reflective backing. Okay, so that is using dust. If I wanted to then just pull everything together and make the whole thing pop, I would take a little bit of gold. So this is Wedding Gold from the Sugar Art Luster Dust. And you could do the same thing of dry dusting or wet dusting, but when I'm doing the borders and the frames around gems, I really, really like to do it wet because it just pops a lot better. So I'm just going to paint this around, and that just helps to frame, no pun intended, that gem.
I have a feeling you'll be able to see it a little bit more.
Yeah, this really, really just helps the whole thing be defined. And this is something that allows you to also, if you wanted to pour the whole thing, like let's say you wanted the stone to be blue or you wanted it to be purple, you can pour the whole thing in purple and then just go back and paint. You don't have to worry about, you could layer different colors of Isomalt in, but it's a lot harder to keep it precise, in my opinion, than just hand painting it afterwards. Now, the painting on the back is also something that I use, not necessarily for gems, but to make things pop. Because Isomalt is transparent, light seeps through it, right? So let's say you're doing a beautiful yellow transparent diamond laid on top of a dark purple cake. That's not really going to work, right? You're going to see the purple through the transparent yellow, and it's just going to create a really, really muddy color. So I actually will paint on the backs of my pieces a lot, even if it's just with a white petal dust, a white luster dust, or something, to not necessarily affect the color, but to add a white opaque background to your Isomalt pieces so that they stand out on different colors of cake. That will work with the foil-backed ones as well. It'll just give you that background that you can't really tell it's actually doing anything, but it really does make a big difference when you're doing transparent. So I'm just packing some dry dust on top of the wet dust while it is still tacky so that it just creates a more opaque layer instead of having to go back and do multiple layers of the watered down dust. It's important to paint all the way to the outside edges because you want it to look seamless, like it's made of gold rather than just gold plated on top. Okay, so now when I hold it up, you see how that just brought everything out. You have that transparency of the bottom stone, and then you have the more opaque finish on the top stone, and it just pulls everything together. Okay. So that is some basic diamond painting effects. Now let's get into, let's do some different glitter effects. So of course, glitter is a super popular thing that you can use with Isomalt. Now, the glitter that I'm using is edible. It's not non-toxic. You can use non-toxic. That's a personal preference. But this one is actually edible. It's FDA edible. This is from the Sugar Art as well. This is called Diamond Dust, and this is the color White Diamond. But of course, you could use whatever you like. It's super shimmery, and it's nice because it's not a gelatin base like a lot of edible glitters and cake sparkles are. So it doesn't melt in the Isomalt. So you could actually mix this right into the Isomalt and get a whole different effect than what I'm showing you. It does have some pearl dust or luster dust mixed in, so you will get a slightly opaque, shimmery effect in addition to the glitter. It's not a completely transparent Isomalt with glitter in it, but it's still very, very, very pretty. So this is what I generally will go to when I want glitter effects. Alright, so let me grab a ring here. So we're going to do the same thing. I want to show you the difference between painting it on the front and painting it on the underneath, because especially with the glitter, since it's so pronounced, you can really, really see a big difference in the two. Okay. Now, when I'm painting this on, I'm not going to use alcohol this time because I find that it doesn't really stick as well with the glitter, since the glitter is a little bit chunkier. So I'm going to go ahead and use some piping gel. Alright, I'm going to give the whole diamond on front. We'll do the one on front first. Just a coat of glitter. Or a coat of piping gel and then a coat of glitter. You can mix the glitter in with the piping gel if you want, and that will give you more control over how much glitter you want to mix in if you want it just to be a light sparkle, or you can just cake the entire surface of the piping gel with the glitter like I'm going to do. Alright, so I'm going to just sprinkle some of the glitter in the cap here and attempt to be clean, but we'll see how that goes. And then I'm just going to dip that ring right in and then probably tap some over the surface so that it completely coats it. So I'm just sprinkling it right on top and tapping off the excess.
Sydney, Barbara would like to know, are the molds sold out?
No, the molds are not sold out. We have them in the accessory kit all together with some clear Isomalt, and we have them individually as well on our website. Okay, so you can see how striking that is. It's a very, very bright sparkle. I would glaze this. I glaze all my Isomalt pieces, of course, with the clear edible glaze, but the glaze especially helps with edible glitter like this because it locks in the glitter and it won't shed as badly if you glaze over top of that. So after I painted the band, I would glaze it and that would help hold the glitter in. So we have the glitter on the outside, and then we'll paint on the back of this one to see the difference of the glitter on the back. So I'm just doing the stone because I don't want the band to have any glitter on it.
Oh, that is so cool looking.
Now sometimes you'll get a slight fogginess or a slight bubbly effect on the Isomalt on the surface because of the silicone mold. Silicone just naturally breathes when it comes in contact with heat, so it might be a little bit cloudy right now, but when you glaze over top of it, it's going to be completely taken away. You can also torch over it if you wanted to, but some little details can get lost, so I just prefer to wait until I'm going to glaze. Okay, so it's a lot more subtle, but it's still, especially in person, very, very pretty and sparkly. So it's not quite as like, whoa, glitter in your face. Sometimes this can look a little bit more elegant rather than just caking everything in glitter, because it just kind of has, I don't know if you can see that, but it has that sparkly back. Let me try torching it.
Silvery.
I'm going to try torching it. Like I said, I don't usually do this with faceted designs, but I want you to really be able to see. It does kind of have a silvery effect. That might be a little bit easier to see. See how it's like, there it goes, reflective and kind of sparkly in the back. So that back is completely caked in the glitter, but the front just smooths it over a little bit and makes it look more of like a reflective glitter that's mixed down in. You can kind of see the little particles. So
Cool.
just different kind of effects depending on how gaudy you want your pieces to be. And of course that's just personal style. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can go with this, depending on your style, depending on the style that the client wants and the cake or cupcake or cookies that you're doing.
So Bev says, can you add the glitter to melted Isomalt, and should you add it then? Does white diamond dust melt?
White diamond dust will not melt, that's why I like it, but a lot of edible glitters will melt because they're a gelatin base, so you want to just do a little test if you're not using diamond dust, but you absolutely can mix in the glitter at the point before you pour it into the molds, so you can mix it in and then pour the ring mold if you wanted to mix it in that way. Okay, so I'm going to just make this whole thing pop again by
Barbara says more
adding
glitter
some
the
gold.
better.
Definitely. I mean, I definitely agree. I
Barbara
love
would
glitter.
like to know, can you apply them together for a 3D ring?
Yeah, you absolutely could. For sure. The possibilities are really endless with this. Okay, so I'm just going to paint. And now another thing that goes along with this, not necessarily what we're doing, but that goes along with this is just painting the backs in general of pieces gives you a more opaque effect because sometimes they can look a little bit patchy. You have to do a whole bunch of layers of paint just because Isomalt is like glass. It doesn't absorb paint, it just sits on the surface. So sometimes you do need something that's going to be more opaque, or you need to do multiple coats. And painting the back makes a really big difference in making sure that the whole piece looks opaque and solid rather than transparent. Okay, so that would just be the first coat. You can see it's a little bit lighter than the other one that I did a couple coats on, but if I go ahead and paint over the back of it, it will just bring that color even more opaque. Okay, you can almost kind of see it in the shadow more. That's the one that has it on the back where it's glittery up and underneath. Okay, so it still maintains that diamond crystal look, where the other one that's just caked in the glitter doesn't really have a crystallized look. It just looks like it's covered in a sparkling glitter, which is very pretty, but again, sometimes you want it to have that more reflective, sort of transparent depth to it. Okay. Alright, so we did our glitter, we did our painting the pearlized dust on it. I want to show you one more way that you can bring some depth into your pieces while the other pieces are still drying, of painting a little bit of an aged effect onto your pieces. So I'm going to use a little bit of brown. This is deep brown from the Sugar Art. So this is petal dust. I'm going to mix with just a tiny brush a couple of drops. You can do this in a palette if you don't want to put alcohol into your caps and things. But I'm going to take a little bit of this brown because I'm using gold. Now if you're doing silver, I would use a black or a gray. And I'm just going to take a little bit and start just kind of shading into some of the indents of this mold, and that's just going to add some depth and some more antiquing. Of course it depends on the shade that you're picking, but a lot of the times if you just do one flat color, it can look a little bit lacking in depth, especially if you're going for more of an aged antique-y look. So what I do is I just take a darker color, or a darker shade of the color that you're working with, and I just paint it in some of the indents. So I'm just kind of taking that brown, going around the outside edges where there would be kind of a shadow. I'm going in between each one of the little stone indentations, and it looks a little bit messy now. I'm not being super duper clean with this because it's really easy to clean up afterwards with some more gold. You could do as many shades as you want. You don't have to just go straight in with a super dark brown. You can do mixing some of the gold with the brown first and do like a light shading, and then once you know exactly where you want the darkest parts and shadows to be, you can add more. But a general rule is anywhere there's an indent, that's where the darker colors are going to go. Anywhere there is something that's sticking up or raised, that's where the lighter colors are going to go. Okay, so already you can see that that pops more because the dark color is on there, but it still is slightly messy. So I'm going to show you how to clean that up, but I'll hold this up first. So I just put it in between some of those indents. I wasn't super careful because we want this to look antique-y. Then I'm going to go back with the gold. This works really good on a flat brush, but this is so small that you can really use any kind of brush. And I'm not going to poke straight at it. I'm putting the brush parallel to the ground or straight flat down, and I'm just going to lightly just pick up on the highest points. I don't want to paint over those dark shades that I put in, because then you're just going to go back and forth painting over each other. I just want to kind of pick up some of those highlights, and sometimes I'll even mix some white or some pearl into this for another layer and just kind of paint it and touch it on the highest points, and that's going to give you some depth and some kind of antiquing look in your finished piece. So see how now it's a little bit more subtle. It's not like just looking splotchy, it looks a little bit more defined because you cleaned it up with that lighter color. Okay. So just kind of playing around and tweaking it and adding more colors. Luckily with luster dust, they are pretty much opaque when you put alcohol in them, so you can paint over top of each other if you need to. You could even use a little bit of gel color that's thinned down with some dilution solution or some water, if that's all you have, and just kind of you know, do like an opaque paint over the whole thing if you wanted to, and let it dry before you paint more over top. But yeah, it just gives you a really, really nice effect. You can really see the difference now in that shadow of the transparent gem with the painting on the back and then the gem with the painting on the front. So basically with any kind of layering effect, whether it be glitter or paint, if you do it on the front, it's going to be a very intense effect. If you do it on the back, it's going to be a little bit more subtle, reflective effect. Alright, so we got those. Let's go ahead and take out some of our other gems that we poured earlier, and I'll show you even more techniques with those. So I'm just going to slide these guys over. Put them over here. Okay, let's take out the foil backed one first. So you want to use a tool or a toothpick or something that's not your finger just to tap at it first. Make sure it's nice and solid. You don't want to pull on the foil because sometimes the foil can rip or it can pull away a little bit if the Isomalt wasn't hot enough when you poured it. So you don't want to pull on the foil, you just want to kind of flex the mold and let the Isomalt fall out, or kind of help it to come out. There we go. It's kind of hard to tell right now because the whole thing is reflective, so I'm just going to cut out. You can use an X-Acto or a scissor for this. I'm going to cut off the excess foil, and I find this easier to do afterwards because you have a guide of where to cut rather than trying to cut the exact shape before you lay it on the back. Okay, remember this is non-edible. This is for decoration only, or for cake toppers that they're going to remove and save. If you want to do the edible version, then you use a gold or silver leaf. And again, just for, you can kind of see it now, how reflective that is underneath, but I am going to just torch the surface so you can see it even better. This is mimicking what the glaze would do. I just don't want to get glaze on you guys by spraying it here, so I'm going to use the torch, but you don't have to do this. Once you spray it with the edible glaze later, it will do this exact same thing. Okay, don't touch it right after you torch it. Alright, here we go. So, see how super duper reflective that is, and it's not see-through anymore, which is nice again if you're going up against a different color of cake. So that is a really, really nice effect, and then if you paint that little bit of gold around it, it just gives you a super duper reflective and beautifully kind of mirror-like finish. Even just like that is really pretty. You could put just a little bit of dry dust on it, get those details reflecting, and you have beautiful silver on it. So if you were doing, let's say, if we wanted to invert this, so if you don't necessarily want the gem to be reflective, you just want the outside to look silvery reflective, you could then go back and just paint the centers with one of those techniques that I showed you before, with the glitter or with the luster dust, and then leave the outside frames of them, you can leave, and that way it gives you like a reflective silver of effect of the background, or of course you could use gold too. You can get gold foil as well. They get, you can use it for like packing up desserts and things like that, decorative foils and things. So if you wanted a gold or even different colors, you can use those too. So just kind of as a, let's see, reference between...
Oh, I think you should use the hologram transfer sheet.
Yeah, that would be super pretty too, the hologram. Okay, so you can see how much more reflective that one is, especially because I have lights going right on it. So compared to the glitters, and then compared to the luster dust, which this one is a little bit more reflective because you are reflecting that light through the clear Isomalt when it's painted on the back, and then the top one is more just like a set, matte, opaque finish.
Can you put them on like a little board or something and bring them out?
Yes, I can probably do that if I can find a board. I can set them on this palette that I have. Here, let me just use these. Yeah, I don't want a board tumble. Here, let me put them, and then this way it's on a nice white background. There, this will work. All right. There we go, good idea. So you can see the foil backed pieces are very, very reflective. The pearl dust back pieces, if it's painted on the back, it's still pretty reflective, but it's a little bit more subtle, and then painted on the top of it is going to be more of a flat matte color, or shimmery color if you use luster dust. And then the glitters here, this one is going to be the painted with piping gel on the top surface and then dipped in the glitter on the surface, and then this one is painted on the underneath. So you get a whole bunch of different effects, and of course if you're not sure which one you want to use, try it out. Test out different things on your specific brooch or your specific thing. You could do this on the back of a monogram or the front of a monogram to get glittery effects or foil backed effects. You're never really going to know until you do a test on your own pieces that you can see with your own eyes. Of course I can see, because these are right in front of me, that it's so bright and pretty and reflective. It's a little bit harder to see on the cameras that I'm using just because they're webcams for doing lives. So yeah, you can see the really, really pretty differences in all of the difference. And then of course the antiquing effect compared to the just plain gold effect, those do need a couple more coats just so they're not so pastel, but you guys kind of get the idea of that.
I know, like a lot of people use the foil underwater.
Yeah, like I said earlier, you can use it underneath water or anything like mirrors and things like that you can reflect. The cool thing with mirrors is that it'll pretty much stick to it, so if you wanted to do like a shattered mirror, the foil will actually, as long as you don't break through the foil, will hold it together, so you can get really cool cracks and splinters and stuff in it with the foil holding it.
Okay, Beth is wondering,
Yes.
could you do gold leaf behind the ring to make it brighter gold and then sandwich it like two rings together, like in between?
You could do that. You have to blend the seam away, so you can lightly torch and use the silicone tools to blend the seam away. I usually don't even worry about that because, I mean, it's a little bit flat on the back, but it's really not that bad if you were just going to stand it up into a cake or something like that. I would only worry about putting two together if it was going to be like hanging or something like that, because it does have a slightly domed back, so it doesn't really look, bad without that. But you definitely could, for sure. And now, just for kind of a control piece or base piece, you can see it compared to just a clear, with nothing done to it, diamond. Okay, so I'm going to take that out. Remember, when you're taking out your molded pieces, if you have some rough edges, like I can see on the inside of the band, there's some rough edges, I'm going to flip that over so that detail is face down and it just kind of protects it from the heat. And I'm just lightly torching all around the surface of the edges. And I'm going to let that sit for a second, and I'll put it up here just so you can kind of see the difference. Again, when you glaze it, this would get slightly more shiny, but to mimic that, I'm just going to lightly torch it. It'll lose its facets, but for this, we're not really looking at the facets, we're looking at the textures and the depth of the paint. Okay, so I'll put this one up here. So you can see Isomalt on its own is pretty, reflective. It reflects the light beautifully, especially when you have facets in it, so it still does look really, really beautiful. It's just not going to pop quite as much as if you use some extra little steps to get it through, because you can kind of see how it almost loses its shape when it's looked straight onto, just because the light goes right through it. So really, it depends on the project, it depends on the angles and the color palettes that you're using, of which one of these. I use all of these different techniques for different projects because it really just depends, and it's nice to have a variety of different ways that you can do this, and you can mimic these same techniques with different kinds of paints. On the backs and fronts, you can use different edible acrylic paints, you can use gel colors thinned down, you can use airbrushing effects. Imagine how pretty it would be if you airbrushed like different colors in the background to get kind of like a tie-dye ombre effect, and then had that clear surface to shine through. There's really lots and lots of different ways that you can go about doing this. Alright, and then finally, last but not least, we also have those 3D diamonds that I was going to show you guys a trick to getting those crystal clear. So I'm just going to set these guys over to the side and grab my diamonds. So again, I'm just going to test them, make sure they're nice and solid, and just flex the mold and take them out. So I'll take both of these out. Okay. So when you look at them, they do have some bubbles. Can you guys see that little bit of texture on the surface? They're not super duper crystal clear, and that is just because, again, silicone breathes naturally when it comes in contact with heat. So leaving them like this is fine, but it's not really super hyper realistic. So I want to show you guys the difference. So I have another one I'm going to grab out of this bag just so you can see the difference between the two once I'm finished.
Barbara says pink for pink diamond.
Ooh, that would be beautiful. I usually leave these as is and I just pour them in different colored isomalts, but you can, if you wanted these super duper glittery, you can paint them in piping gel and roll them in edible glitter, or you can paint them in luster dust, dry or wet. There's so many different ways. Again, your head's just going to be spinning with all the different things you can do. Okay, so this is a tip that I got from Liz Merrick from Sugar Geek Show. This is what she does for her diamonds, and I absolutely think it's genius because when you go to torch away bubbles like I was doing on those, remember how I said it just melts all the facets. So you don't really want to do that on this because diamonds are all about facets. That's really what makes them look like diamonds and not just little kind of triangular blobs. So we want to maintain the facets while melting the surface, so we are going to use a little baby palette knife. You can use a regular knife, you can use a big palette knife if you have good dexterity, but I like these little tiny palette knives, and I'm going to heat it up. You can see this one's very well loved from being torched on, so make sure you're okay with that because it will get a little bit of that kind of look. I'm going to heat this up till it's nice and hot, so it's almost getting like red hot. Carefully, without touching the metal at all, I'm going to just slide it up and you get this nice satisfying plume of steam. And you can only do a couple before it gets too cool. But this just kind of melts the yeah, look at that. See that? So that compared to this. And sometimes you get like little lines, you can almost see on the sides of that, you get like little lines from the palette knife, but I actually like that because a lot of diamonds have that sort of cut look because they're cut, so I think that it's really, really pretty. So what I'll do now is this Isomalt, I would do this right away, I'm just reheating it since I didn't. This little bit of Isomalt on here, I don't want to burn up when I heat it again, so I'm just wiping it off on the side of my mat, and I'll heat it up again and I'll just repeat this process. So I do it on all of the different sides, going as quick as I can.
I think Liz did this on her geodes.
Yes, exactly. The geode molds that we have on our site that we designed for her, they have like the jutting up crystals and stuff like that. You can do that on those as well, or really anything that you want a nice smooth surface, but you want the transparency. Yeah, I use hot knives all the time for different projects because it's one of the easier ways to cut through a big piece of Isomalt is to use a hot knife. So I'll use really big knives and heat them up, and then you can cut through. I try and get it hot enough that I can cut through just once, but sometimes you have to do it a couple times, you know, cut from different angles.
Didn't you use a wire?
Yeah, you can heat up wires too if you wanted to, so I can even show you how to make little ornaments and things. I've done it in a couple of my past workshops and Playdates. Let me just finish this up here. And you can, you know, go a little bit slower than I am to make sure you get every single bubble, but I just want a nice finished piece so that you guys can see the difference. Okay, so this is the one that is has been heated and all the bubbles melted away, and this is the one that was the original texture. Isn't that cool? It just makes them super hyper realistic, makes the light reflect through them really, really beautifully. And that's with nothing else on it. That's just pure Isomalt. There's no paint, there's no foil or anything. Beautiful. So then I would glaze that, of course, to keep it nice and shiny. And yeah, another thing that you can do, I don't know if I have a piece of wire around here. Let me grab. Yeah, I don't know if I have a piece of wire around here, but it's pretty much the same thing. All you would do is you would just take your piece of Isomalt that you wanted to hang or turn into an ornament. You take a little metal wire, make sure it's not covered. You don't want to cover it with paper or anything like that, obviously, since you're going to be torching it. You just heat up the wire till it's red hot, and you can pop it right through. So usually I just create a hole, and then I would take a piece of dental floss or whatever kind of string you want to use. I like dental floss because it is going to be food safe. Obviously you can't eat dental floss, but it is food safe. So that is why I use that. The same reason I use aluminum foil, because it is food safe. Even though it's not edible, and then you can just hang it. So you could either put a wire hook on it permanently and leave it in there, or you can just pop a hole through and then thread a little bit of string through it. Super duper easy. Easy Isomalt ornaments. Alright, so we got all of our different pieces down here. Hold them up one more time so you can see all of the different effects we got. So we got glitter, glitter backs, luster dust on the front and back, foil backs, clear by itself. And I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg and different painting effects and things like that. This is just kind of a basis. And the techniques that I use the most when working with all of my different Isomalt projects, because it just gives you a wide array of choices depending on what you like.
Yeah, they should definitely go watch the painting and coloring video.
Definitely, yeah. If you're interested in learning about actually mixing colors into the Isomalt and what kind of colors you can and can't use, make sure you check out my YouTube channel. It's just under my name, Sidney Galpern. You can search it on YouTube, or you can go to simicakes.com here or in the corner down here, and that will give you a link to all of my social media. I have tons of YouTube videos. If you're new to Isomalt, you can check out my Isomalt Basics series as well on YouTube. It's all about making sure you don't have bubbles and just some of the basics of working with pulled, blown, and cast Isomalt and some other fun stuff. But what do you guys think? Can you guys see using these techniques in your projects?
Yeah, beautiful.
Awesome,
Fantastic
awesome.
work.
Yay, I'm so glad. I'm just reading through your comments. Does anybody have any last questions or anything before we switch back here? I'm going to switch my camera back. Alright. Hi again. Alright, yay. Oh, I'm so glad that you guys like it. Diamonds, again, are one of the things, it's probably one of the original things that Isomalt was used for, right? It's just the thing that everybody has kind of started out seeing Isomalt, so I've been trying to kind of cover the different things. We did this one, we did like all about Isomalt water and flames and corals, so those are kind of like the fundamental Isomalt techniques that have always been used with Isomalt, so just kind of trying to put a new fresh spin on it and show you guys a whole bunch of different things that I use in my own work too all the time. So yeah, I'm super glad that you guys enjoyed that. Awesome, awesome. Yay! So yeah, if you guys have any final questions, write them in the chat. I also want to tell you about my next upcoming lives, because I do Playdates, I do Zoom classes, I do a whole bunch of different things, so I'm just going to put a couple banners up on the screen if you're interested in coming back and hanging out with me and learning more about Isomalt or chocolate. So I'm going to switch this. My next Isomalt Zoom class, so I do hands-on Zoom workshops, is going to be this beautiful Isomalt Key to My Heart topper. So we're doing the cast Isomalt heart, we're doing the pulled Isomalt wings, we're doing some beautiful roses and keys and vines and just putting it all together into this topper. I'm going to talk about structure and stability. That one is January 29th and 30th. It's either one, you could pick either day, and you can use what you have, or we have the accessory kit on our website. So
it's no longer with us. I accidentally destroyed it.
I will fix it before the class as best as I can. Yeah, he's over there missing a wing right now, but I promise I will fix it. It's no big deal. It's Isomalt, right? And then the next workshop, I also have an additional January workshop on Zoom. So it's going to be chocolate. This one is the chocolate sunflower showpiece. So we're going to learn all these techniques of structure and stability in building chocolate showpieces. I'm going to show you how to make this lifelike sunflower, some painting techniques, a marbling technique in chocolate, and then just a whole bunch of different tips and tricks for working with chocolate as well. So that one is the 22nd or 23rd, and again, we have the accessory kit, or you can use the things that you have.
And they can use either chocolate.
Yeah, you can use either chocolate that's been tempered, so tempered chocolate, if you took my tempered chocolate workshop and you want to practice your skills, you can use that, or you can use candy melt style, so like Merkins or, Guittard and the different pre-made candy coatings. That way you don't have to worry about tempering it. Either one is fine. It's totally up to you.
And Carol said she came in a little later. She goes, love it. Would you add gold leaf the same way as foil?
Yes, exactly the same way. Sometimes I think with the edible gold and silver leaf, it'd probably be easier to add it after the Isomalt's cool. It sticks to everything, so just stick it on the back, or even you can use a little bit of piping gel to help it stick too.
Yeah, it sticks pretty good.
It does. And then those were my Zoom workshops, but I also have my Playdate just like this one. It's completely free on my Facebook page. It's going to be the hot new trend of tea bombs. We're going to be making some hot tea bombs. I'll go over how I make my hot chocolate bombs. We're going to do some shaker heart lollipops just in time for Valentine's Day, and even how to make Isomalt bath bombs. So I'm going to go over all of that and more in the next Isomalt Playdate here on my Facebook page. That's February 12th at 2 p.m. EST. Again, it's completely free, but we do have a really awesome kit of all of the different pieces that I'm going to be using, the accessories of the different molds, our brand new molds for making the bombs, and spheres and hearts and geometric hearts, and then the Isomalt and icing sheet and all of that fun stuff. We do appreciate you guys, because I know a lot of my students have gotten this. We appreciate you guys putting up with the post office right now.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, because I know it's been frustrating. The post office is crazy right now, of course, with everything going on, plus the holidays on top of that, so I really appreciate you guys being patient, and I'm really excited about this Playdate because it's so much fun, and I'm going to show you how to use boiled sugar and Isomalt for this, and you can use loose tea, you can use tea bags, you can do the hot chocolate bombs, you can do lollipops, so we're just going to go over everything, which I'm really excited about. And a final reminder, we are having a sale right now through the Simi Torch team. If you're not a member of the Simi Torch team, it is a super fun, totally free Facebook group that you can join. Just search Simi Torch team and you will find it on Facebook. And right now, all of our members are getting 20% off with a special code that you can find in the group on Isomalt. Yeah, Simi Isomalt. So that includes clear Isomalt, Isomalt bulk, colors, raw, everything to do with Isomalt on our website, simicakes.com. So that's only good this month. Make sure that you join if you're not already, because it's a super fun group. We do giveaways and contests. We do a deal of the month. We do a free gift of the month. We get tons of inspiration from each other in different projects, so I'm really excited about that. It's been so much fun. And I'm just going to switch back here. Hello again. Alright, anybody have any final questions? I think we got everything. Awesome, you guys are excited. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being here. Happy New Year to everybody. I can't believe it's the New Year already. We really appreciate you guys being here, and we can't wait to see you in the next live stream. So until then, keep life sweet. Bye guys.
Bye-bye.